Productboard people
Yeah.
in the chat. That's nice. Uh, for those of you joining promptly, we're going to be getting started probably around the 3 to 4 minute mark. And feel free to post up in the chat for where you're tuning in from. And then in a moment, I'm actually going to ask Rachel some questions to get to know her a little bit better. She
Yeah, sounds good.
hasn't been shared these questions previously, so
Yeah.
but
Not
trust me.
scripted.
Yeah.
Ooh, Berlin, nice.
We were just chatting
Spent
about
some
that.
time there, yes.
It's very close by to me. I'm in Amsterdam, but I haven't gotten over
Mm.
to Berlin yet, and I'm very excited.
Oh,
So
you need to. It's
it's
so
on my
good.
list.
Yeah, good beer, cheap beer, good food.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've always wondered what the food scene is like in Berlin. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
pretty well exposed to like the music scene and the art scene, but I haven't really heard much about the food scene there. So,
yeah, a ton of really good Vietnamese food, actually, like
ah,
all over. Thai. Um, those are probably the top for me.
amazing. I That's unexpected, but
Yeah.
that's really great.
hmm I think there was like a Vietnamese community that kind of settled in Berlin at one point. So
Hmm, nice.
yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah, that's cool.
Pizza is hit or miss, but
As well, I'm just coming back from New York, and let me tell you, I mean,
yeah,
like, even just the conversation around the wings is like conversation that no one outside of New York, I feel like, would even understand, right? Like,
yeah.
it's just you can't really rival New York pizza scene. So
I mean, I agree, but we might have some debates in the chat. Ooh,
yeah,
Burger
totally,
Meister, yeah, that's a good one in Berlin. That was my favorite burger, I would say.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Well, I'll ask you a couple of these rapid fire questions here, and
okay,
then we'll get started in a few moments.
sounds good.
So, first one I have is what's something you can't stop talking about?
Oh, it's thing. Unfortunately, it's The Ultimatum on Netflix.
I haven't heard of that before.
Um, it's really bad. It's maybe the worst reality TV show I've ever seen. It's like you don't actually really know what's going on. And there's just so much to dive into the psyche of each person. And yeah, it's too much, but it's good.
Well, we have a lot of trash reality TV show lovers at Maze,
Yeah,
so I expect that there will be some conversation about that one if folks
yeah,
know it.
it's
All
a good one.
right.
It's a good one.
Well, speaking of travel, what is your top destination trip right now? Something.
Like where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my top destination trip. I was, like I said, I spent some time living in Berlin, and before the pandemic, I was able to travel all around Europe. It was incredible, and like, places in Southeast Asia and all that. So actually now the top of my list is in the US because I mean, I traveled around, but I don't think you really like appreciate the variety of like beautiful landscapes that you can find here. And so when I went to Europe, all of my friends were like, "Oh, I want to do a cross the US road trip." And I'm like, "Why?"
Now that you're
And
back, you're
they
like, I realize why.
yeah, and then they opened my eyes to like all of the really beautiful things you can see. And so I think the Northwest probably, maybe like Montana, Wyoming, stuff like that.
hmm When I moved to Seattle from New York, this was years ago. I drove and took a camping tour to get over there.
Mm.
So I saw the Badlands, the in Yellowstone. I've lived in
Oh,
the Pacific
nice.
Northwest. I basically call Pacific Northwest my home because I spent my adult years there before moving
Yeah.
to Amsterdam, and it's absolutely stunning. There's
Yeah.
nothing like the Pacific Northwest, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's
So
gorgeous.
that's my goal.
Well, you let me
Yeah.
know if you need any recommendations. I
Yeah.
can let you know. All right, what's your favorite thing about your hometown?
Ooh, favorite thing about my hometown. Well, that's a suburb in Dallas, which is not the most exciting place. But I would say, actually, we just talked about this barbecue. The barbecue there
Totally.
is incredible. Oh,
Totally.
bluebonnets, yeah. Actually, wildflowers is also one of my favorite things in Texas and in most of the South. There was like a highway cleanup project where they just sprinkled wildflower seeds on all
Oh,
the highways, and so in the spring, it's like really beautiful to drive around.
the Dallas Arboretum too is
Yeah,
stunning.
that's
All those
true.
crepe myrtles.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's it. You're right. That it's got
Yeah,
some
really
stunning
good
landscape there.
flowers. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. All right, my last question for you is what's something to be read on your or what's on your to be read pile? You got a book that's waiting for you?
To be read. Oh my gosh, I have like 70. My favorite thing to do is download previews on my Kindle and not even finish those. So that's a tough one. Oh, there's one. I mean, this is, a loser. This is a design book, but I really want to read. It's something about like your mom
Oh yeah,
will
the mom
lie to
test.
you. Yeah, the mom
Yeah.
test.
Uh-huh.
And
Nice.
yeah, my design team, a couple people have read it recently and said it gives really, really good um, tips for interviewing and making sure you're getting like unbiased insights and stuff. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. Well, thank you for trusting me in in
sure.
those questions. That was fun.
Yeah,
For those of you just tuning in, I want to welcome you to the third Learning Curve event, and I'm super excited to host Rachel Lynch. Rachel is the research manager at Productboard, and she is here with a presentation on how to hone decision making through concept and usability testing. So I'm your host, Ash Oliver, UX designer and design advocate at Maze. And before I turn it over to Rachel, I'm going to give you the rundown on how we're going to spend about the next 60 minutes together. So some quick housekeeping. For those of you that might be new to the Maze community, Learning Curve events are designed specifically to feature presentations, workshops, and other deep learning activities that are led by experts and leaders in the field so that you can learn best practices, new frameworks, pick up workflow strategies, and ultimately uplevel your skills. So we're really thrilled to have Rachel here presenting within the Learning Curve event track. And I want to make a point to acknowledge the platform that we're in. This is called Circle, and this is the community hub for Maze. So you'll not only be able to catch all of our live event streams here, but you can catch up on past recordings, attend Maze product office hours, register for future events, and of course, engage with your peers. So when the event is over, if you haven't joined the members directory, feel free to join there. You can also check out the welcome tab for a kind of welcome video and tour around the Circle space. So you can kind of catch up on everything that's built out here in the community hub. Now
very cool.
for the event today, Rachel will present for about 30 to 35 minutes, and then we've got the last portion of the event reserved for question and answer. So you can leave your questions in the chat, and then one of my Maze friends is going to serve them up to me at the end. And then lastly, the event is being recorded, so that'll be uploaded in the Learning Curve space within Circle after the event. All right, that is all from me.
Okay.
Rachel, feel free to take it away.
Sounds good. Um, Please excuse my stuffiness. I have a little bit of a cold. And yeah, just wanted to say hi to everybody in the chat. I have some fellow coworkers from previous jobs, and I'm so happy that you joined. Thank you. That's really nice. And David, I agree. The ultimatum makes me feel really bad about myself because I'm watching it. But everyone should still watch it for sure. So let me get my screen share set up. I'm going to move camera, you guys over to here, and then I have my window of things that I'm going to share. Let's see. Window presentation. Yes, thank you, Ash. I can't take credit for the beautiful background. I am staying with a friend in New York, and she's just cooler than me. So I decided to use her cactus as a background. Okay, so uh, presentation. Let's get everything set up. It's a little jarring, not like I'm so used to Zoom where I can see everyone's faces, and now I can only see myself, and it's a little bit throw me off a little bit, but I got the chat up too, so I can see what you guys are chatting about. All right, so as Ash said, I'm Rachel. I work at Productboard as the research manager. And today I'm going to be walking you guys through a user-centric approach for decision making, specifically to get your teams from idea to ready for delivery. And yeah, so like I said, I work at Productboard, and our mission is to help make products that matter together. So I am a research manager for all of the product team. And a little bit about my background is I've sort of worked in different environments in terms of how research is approached. So my first few positions, research was a very centralized position. There wasn't a lot of maybe skills or knowledge that other roles had about how to do research. So I was in charge of setting up teams, managing research requests, and really doing all of the research for our product teams. Now that I'm at Productboard, it's a very different environment. We're a democratized and decentralized research organization, and 80% of the research that happens across the product organization is done by product managers and designers. So what I've been able to do through my career is see how to take people who have very little knowledge of research and upskill them. And now on the other side, working with people who already have a lot of knowledge for how to do research and how to make it even better. So yeah, experience across all different skill sets, and that should hopefully help get some good information to you guys today. So just a little bit quickly about Productboard. We enable product organizations to align, scale, and deliver products that matter. So our main users are PMs, that's our target audience, and we're a product management tool. We do that through allowing teams to integrate all of their feedback channels into Productboard. This goes into our insights feature where you can tag and read all of your customer feedback. We have feature hierarchies where you can prioritize all of your feature ideas, roadmaps for planning what your team will actually execute, and delivery integrations with things like Jira so that we can track activity on our roadmap. So that's just a little info about Productboard. And today, what we're going to dive into is really going from first identifying goals so that we know where we are in the UX process when we're working on coming up with new ideas, concepting, prototyping, deciding what to build. From there, we're going to look into research methods that help move you forward through this process. I'll give you some tips for designing research to make you the most successful possible. And then just a little bit about how to set up that research to prioritize action. And a little bit here is the second two are more research skill based, which are very important and I think valuable. Those are kind of things you can also Google, to be to be honest. Like there's a lot of information about how to ask good research questions and how to design unbiased research. We're still going to learn all about that today, but I also just want to highlight these first two are things that I learned as a researcher that if everyone's not on the same page about how to talk about where we are in the process, are we working on a problem? Are we working on a solution? Are we even ready for a certain type of test? giving people language for those conversations gets everyone on the same page really quickly, then you can focus on doing good research. So that's the idea for why I want to share not just hands-on research skills, but that will also be part of today. So like I said, starting with the UX process, I prefer the double diamond. There's many different frameworks out there. There's ones that include, opportunity research before anything happens. There's the triple diamond that goes into the specific breakdown of steps to delivery. For me, the double diamond is the most simple framework to keep in mind when you're going through the idea to delivery work in your teams. And we focus on the problem world and the solution world, and we'll dig into that in a bit. So if we look at what does research look like in the problem space, this is where you're trying to set that foundation. You want to make sure you know the problems that exist and you're solving the right problems. And it's also gives you a place to revisit if you get into building up your solutions and you feel like something's not right or it's not really hitting the mark. You can revisit that work you did in the problem space to make sure that your team can confidently name the problem you're working on and has a persona or a target that you're designing for. So that's a bit about what research in the problem space looks like. Research in the solution space. This helps us be more confident in our ideas, and it makes sure that our end users will want what we're designing and will be able to use it in the way we intended. And so we want to make sure we can answer things like why we're moving forward with a specific solution and what are the details of that first MVP. And we've tested all of that and validated that with our users. So when we look specifically at how do we define our goal as a team in this double diamond framework so that we know what to do to move forward, you can see it's broken down into problem finding, which is uncovering problems, problem definition, which is deciding what's the right problem to solve, solution finding, which is uncovering the right solution, and solution definition, which is whether or not the solution is usable. So these are stages you can use to reflect, have we done everything we need in the previous stages and are we ready to move on to the next? What we're going to focus on today is the solution world, so solution finding and solution definition, and how you can understand which one you fall into and what methods you're ready for as a team. So specifically in solution finding, I like to look at this as testing multiple paths. You're not yet zeroed in on a specific idea, but you're working with a problem and you might need to work through multiple ideas. You need to decide which idea to choose, and you also need to figure out what makes your idea valuable. Is this a idea that people will want and they'll want to use? And how you can work through testing multiple solutions is you can build solution hypotheses. This is just a template. There's a bunch of other ways that you can build a solution hypothesis, but the idea is that you state who you're designing for, what problem it's being solved, and the value, why are you even working on this solution? What value is it supposed to bring to your users? And this is an exercise that gets the team on the same page. So we're not always asking each other like, well, why are we working on this in the first place? What is this even going to do? In solution definition, this is where you're diving into your best idea. So how do we actually, we're pretty confident that we validated that our idea has value to our users. Now we want to actually deliver it. So you're going deep into your best idea and you need to uncover if it's easy to use, if people will enjoy using it, and what that first MVP will look like. And here you can use assumption test, which is defining what your users should be able to do or how they should feel when completing the tasks that you've designed for them. So that is the scope, the framework that I use to talk within our teams to figure out, are we ready to do the research that we're asking, basically. Often I'll have teams request research, and then within the research questions that they've given me, I actually identify that we're trying to learn things from all of these phases of the double diamond. And so once everybody's on board with why we work through different phases, then it's a lot easier to have the conversations of, well, maybe we need to back up. We haven't learned everything we need to learn. So the next really important thing is to be very clear about what those research questions are. What are you actually trying to learn by testing these new ideas? They help us break down exactly how we're going to reach our goal. Like I said, we're today focused in the solution world. That typically, these are not the only two methods you can use in solution testing, but these two cover, I would say, 80% of the methods that I've used with my teams. And that is concept testing and usability testing. So we're going to dive into how to define your research questions and how to identify which research questions lead us to which method. So within solution finding, you're trying to test, is this idea even a good idea? And that typically goes for a concept test, which is a one-on-one moderated interview. Typically, there are other options that I'll talk about. And what is really helpful when you're thinking about your research questions is trying to categorize them. So what am I trying to learn with this question? And common themes that come up for concept test research questions are perceptions. What do people think as they're using your solution? So do they understand, this is just an example I came up with for a therapy app. Do they understand that they can learn about different therapy styles and schedule in our app? So that's like, do they actually understand the point of my idea? Attitudes is how people feel. So do they feel comfortable reaching directly out to therapists? Maybe some people don't. And then a very important one for concept tests is the value, and really defining the value that you're designing for your users or your customers. So in this example, the ultimate value is we want to know if customers or users will feel that the app helps them move towards more improved mental health, better than their current situation. And so this is, yeah, we'll see later how this sets us up for success as well, later in how we take notes and how we prioritize action. And then within solution definition, that typically leads towards usability. And the themes that you typically see, or what would point you to think, oh, this is more usability related, are things around ease of use. So will they know how to find different therapists to compare? That's a specific task that we need them to be able to do. Task success or task completion, these are things around maybe how long something takes, or can they enter their personal information? Can they do things successfully? Can they do them quickly? And then delight. This is about how it's easy to use. They can complete their tasks, but also how do they enjoy it? Do they feel? So this is kind of open to you. What does delight actually mean for you? But it's more of the feeling side of the experience. So one tactic that I think is really helpful is, as a team, writing out your research questions without any judgment on top of it. So trying to just keep it open. Don't write them in a specific way. Just whatever you want to learn, throw them out there, and then reflect. So look through your questions and start to categorize them. This is an example from a team where we wanted to do usability testing, but then once they created all of their research questions, we actually had more in concept like around attitudes and perceptions than in usability. And we actually we changed the project that we were going to do because this one wasn't ready for usability. So this is just an example of using those categories to reflect on what am I trying to learn? What method and what phase does this relate to? And am I ready for that? So the first activity we're going to do is a little quiz. Hopefully you all have used Kahoot, but if you haven't, it's pretty simple. Follow this link, kahoot.it, on either your phone or your laptop. It doesn't matter. It will ask you for a game pin. And the pin should be 14438. 1449388. So, and let's see. It's easiest on your desk, on your phone if it's handy. Cool. Great tip, Rebecca. If anybody has issues, let us know. And I'm going to switch over to, look at everyone joining. Very nice, very nice. So let's see. How many do we have? We've got 47. We'll give it a minute or two to create your nickname. All right, I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And so the focus of this quiz is, I hope it gives me my first slide, otherwise I'm going to pause it. Yeah, so the focus of this little quiz is to identify which method fits your research question. And I had to finagle the system a little bit. You'll see that it's asking a true or false question, but I've mapped blue diamond to concept and red triangle to usability. So you'll see what that means in a second. But I'll have a question pop up here, and then you choose whether or not you think it would lend itself to a concept test or a usability test. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is the first question. Do PMs feel more confident in decisions when using a custom prioritization? Do you think this falls in concept or usability? Blue is concept, red is usability. Okay. So not a ton of answers. Any technical issues, please let us know. But it's just the first question. We're getting warmed up. Most of you were correct that this question lends itself more towards concept testing. And I say that because there's this I look for if there's an outcome or if there's a value. So the value is that we want PMs to feel more confident, and we assume that they'll feel more confident in decision making with this new idea of customer prioritization. So that's why it lends itself towards concept testing. Okay, we got some answers in here. Didn't have time to put an answer. Stopped before the timing on your screen. It cut out really quickly. Okay, that's unfortunate. Let's hope that we're just getting the kinks out with the first question, and we'll be ready for the next one. So just be ready to click. Uh-oh, got an error. Okay, let's see if the next one goes. So far, Eric is our winner. And next question is, do PMs know how to link insights to features? Okay, nice. More answers. And the majority of them were correct. So do PMs know how to link insights to features? I put this in usability because it's more focused on functionality. Do they know how to complete a task, which is linking insights to features? These are all kind of product board focused examples. So still too fast for some people. I didn't have time to answer. There's a bit of a delay. Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. It might just be a technical difficulty today. Let's see. Charlene, rising to the top. Yeah.
Hey, Rachel, if you have the question handy before you press it in Kahoot, maybe you can ask it, and then it'll give people.
Sure.
I don't know if you have it before you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me see if I can get that quickly. And okay, great idea. Kahoot is not very easy to use. So I'm trying to copy and paste, but I'll just type it into the chat. Yeah. Do PMs know how to find comments from a specific customer? That's the next question. Okay, going to the next. Like I said, do PMs know how to find comments from a specific customer? Is this concept or usability? Very nice, very nice. So majority of you are correct. Do PMs know how to find comments from a specific customer? I put this in usability, again, because it's about task success. Can they complete a specific task that we've designed for them? Charlene is heating up. Let's see. The next question is, do designers understand what they can do with the new Insights dashboard? And I will go next. So, do the designers understand what they can do with the new Insights dashboard? Ooh, quick answers there. Okay, we are split pretty good on that one. This, I think, was kind of a tough one, but the reason I put it in concept testing is it's about their deeper understanding of the feature, of the concept, of the idea. It's not necessarily about how they would actually use it, but do they understand what they get out of this dashboard? So maybe that wording is a little bit confusing. But to me, this lands more in concept testing because it's about their deeper understanding of the feature or the idea. And the next question is, does a customer success manager know where to find comments from a specific customer? seems like the question ahead of time is helping, so that's good. All right. That's my fault. That's wrong. That is definitely usability. Does a customer success manager know where to find comments from a specific customer? That's absolutely usability, and you guys were correct. Good job. And next question is, what would PMs expect to happen after creating a new feature hierarchy? I know, I'm so sorry. I killed people's answers straight. That's really mean. So sad. So what would PMs expect to happen after creating a new feature hierarchy? Concept, very good. I see this as concept testing because it's around setting kind of uncovering their mental model. So what do they expect to happen is maybe we haven't necessarily decided, or we want to make sure we're on the same page with this concept. And can PMs easily update permissions on their roadmap? Sorry, I didn't send the answer beforehand. That was my bad. Can PMs easily update permissions on their roadmap? Very good. Majority of us agree that it's usability. It's about executing a specific task that we've designed for them. And the last question is, how does our new objectives hierarchy compare to the current version? All right, getting competitive up here. How does our new objectives hierarchy compare to the current version? Yay, we're getting good here. Concept, this is a very common research question I see in a redesign, and it's around, the overall value that the new idea brings. How does that compare to what they get from the current design? So here's our winners. Casey, third place. Akshay, second place. And first place is Mayara. Very cool. Okay, hope that was fun. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're going to get back to the presentation. And I know we're running close to the end. That section was really important for me to get through because it's really, it's just about practice for writing your research questions and identifying exactly where they land and what you're trying to learn. So yeah, I wanted to make sure we had enough time to dig into that activity. The next is going into, we know what we want to learn and we know what phase we're in. How do we actually execute our research? And I just highly suggest templates. They're super helpful. All of my research plans are basically the same template, regardless of the kind of research that I'm, or the methodology that I'm using. So it's always about defining your goals. Like I said, what phase are you in? Are you trying to uncover which solution to choose, or are you trying to design the best version of that solution? Who's your audience? What are your stakeholders? What are those specific research questions? And then the method and the script. One important piece once you're transitioning into actually designing your research plan and your script, keep in mind that your research question is not your interview question. You'll never ask a user directly your interview question, like very likely it's biased. It's exactly what we want to learn. But to get at the most unbiased insight, we have tactics to ask questions that will get us information that's the most accurate. So you can kind of see this is how it all fits together. You know what your goal is or what phase you're in. You've decided that you want to know how they find a specific feature, and you've broken down the questions you need to reach that goal. And then you design the specific tasks or interview questions to answer that. Just a few reminders. These, like I said, are pretty easy to find online, tips for how to ask good questions. I think the mom test book is pretty good option for this, but things that you don't want to do in an interview. You don't want to lead the witness. You don't want to use a crystal ball. We'll go into what these mean. You don't want to ask yes or no questions, and you don't want to use company lingo. So leading the witness means you're using words that will prime the outcome. So when you say, how easy was it to find the content you need, you're priming them to say it was easy. So always try, if you have that qualifier word, try to take it out and make it the most general question possible. So how was it for you to find the content? Don't make it a sales call. Don't push them to say they prefer this version over the old one. Yeah, again, try to make it the least biased and leading question so they don't know what answer you're trying to get out of them. And don't induce any FOMO. Saying that most people answer a specific way. What about you? That's leading people to want to answer the same as the crowd. For crystal balls, we don't want to ask anyone to predict the future. Humans are not able to accurately predict what they're going to do in the future. And they're also not really able to accurately predict generalizations of the past. So you want to stay away from asking if they would purchase or they would use your product more if they had this feature. And you also want to stay away from usually or typically, how do you do something, and ask them about very specific moments or examples in the recent past that they can walk you through. Yes or no, no yes or no questions. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. And no company lingo. You don't want to assume that they call your features the same way you do. You want them to really speak for themselves and use their own language. That's another insight you can take away from research, is how do people talk about things? What do they call them? We do have another quiz. I think it's best if we get through the rest, and if there's time at the end, we can do that. So we've defined our research questions, and we've decided what methods are right. How do we actually run these different methods? So like I said, templates, because most of my research designs are all of the same except for the key pieces of the questions that I'm going to ask the user about the concept or the prototype. So there's an introduction, there's some background questions. For the concept test, you're probably showing a concept, either a sketch or a description, and asking some questions. With concept testing, you want to start wide. Start with the most open questions to get the least biased responses, like what are your first impressions here? What do you understand on this page? And then you dig deeper when those interesting topics come up. There are other options for concept tests, quantitative surveys, but I would say work with a quantitative researcher here, just so you know. My favorite is the Kano model. If you're curious, this helps you compare different feature ideas in a really nice way. Running a usability test. The difference here is the prototype you're showing and how you structure that. It's less about open questions around value, and it's more about completing tasks with a prototype. How to create these, you set up a scenario. So you want your participants to get into the mindset of what, where they're supposed to be in their journey or what they're supposed to consider, and then embed the task within that scenario, so it makes it feel like it has a real world context, that they know exactly why they're completing this task. Some things to consider for research design: do you want to do unmoderated or moderated, think aloud or post-task reflection, open or closed tasks? Sorry, I know I'm going a bit fast at this point. These are all pretty self-explanatory, and I think it's best for us to get to the end for questions. So I would say read through this if you're not sure exactly, how to, or if you want to know the things you should consider to fully design your research session. And wrapping it up, I know that I'm going a bit fast, so I am sorry about that. But the things you want to consider at the end to make sure your research is successful. Like I said, templates. I'm going to have a slide for you guys with links that you can see different templates that I use. Think about recruiting, and then very importantly, consider how you're going to take notes and how you're going to take action. So like I said, here's some templates that I use, and that will be part of the handout material. Just consider recruiting. I wanted to share, usually the most important piece is whether it's your current customers or non-customers, and here's some tools that are really great options for recruiting definitely May's research participants. For note taking, the main takeaway that I want you guys to have here is don't get too bogged down with it being scientifically sound. Qualitative research, there are methods for analyzing data, but everyone kind of does it their own way. The most important thing is that you have a record for each user, so the full picture of each user, and then set up your notes based on those research questions that you have. And so it's much easier to go back and analyze the data if they're already categorized by the big research question that you're trying to answer. That's my biggest takeaway for note taking. And then always connect your insights to action. This can look like something very simple, which is a recommendations table linked to actions. It can be Jira tickets in a team's backlog. I did just want to highlight Productboard has a really very supportive feature for this, which is you can upload your interview notes to your insights board. And then on the left here, you can see the team's feature hierarchy, and you can highlight those notes and link them back to the feature hierarchy. Which ultimately would end up on your team's roadmap, and they can see directly back into the feedback that flowed into the research on that feature, which is really nice. So key takeaways are making sure you know your goal. That's going to guide, are you in the right phase? And that's going to push your team to maybe go back a step if there's too many questions and you're trying to learn too many things. Do we need to go back maybe to find the problem better? Turn those research questions into categories and choose the best method, again, between concept and usability testing that we talked about today. Your research questions are not your interview questions. You have to translate them into unbiased questions to get the best insights. And make a plan, create templates. There's a lot that's going to be the same across your research projects, and plan also for note taking to be related back to those research questions. That's going to speed up your analysis. And always decide action. Even if you're not acting on an insight, agree as a team. We're not going to do anything with this right now, but always the last step should be, here are all of our insights, and as a team, what are we going to do about it moving forward? And that's it. I'm sorry for a bit of a rush at the end. I know we had some technical difficulties with the quiz, but I hope it was helpful. There's a lot of information here, and I'm happy to answer any questions to help clarify for you guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rachel. That was very, very comprehensive. And I think regardless if you could interact with Kahoot or not, it's really good to be able to see, kind of like some of the small differences in those questions that really lend itself
Hmm.
to, usability or concept. There was a couple that actually tricked me. So those are really
They
good
trick me too
examples.
sometimes. You got to really think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to kick off some of the questions that we've got here in the last 10 minutes. So feel free to take a sip of water if you want.
Sure.
And the first one actually was a question that I had when we were talking just recently about like the note-taking process,
Hmm.
especially considering that Product Board seems to take more of this um, approach where it's less siloed to just research being relegated to all research activities, and instead a
Yes.
lot of the product team owns that. Do you find that the note takers are comprised by someone on the product trio maybe who's doing that research, or is it
Yeah.
always kind of the same role? How does that work for your team?
Great question. At Product Board, we typically have a designer and a PM running research together. So whoever is not interviewing is a note taker. I think or one kind of, I wouldn't say con, but thing you have to consider with a heavily democratized research team is anything you can do to standardize and templatize will help you um, get the most out of the data that you have. So that's why I like to suggest to always link back to your research questions or categories or themes, because then you can look at those insights across teams. So maybe teams are asking similar questions. And it's a very collaborative process at Product Board. And that means we need to be a bit more standardized so we can get the best use out of it.
Yeah, templates are the key.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking at the questions here that Rebecca served up for me. So first question, and apologies if I mispronounce your name, from Palak. Palak says, "Hi Rachel, what can one do when the problem statement isn't super clear? When you're doing
Hmm.
more of an exploratory project which seeks to understand what are the various problems or opportunities, how do I know if I've honed my first diamond enough to move on to the second?"
Yeah, that's a really great question. It can probably be a whole presentation on its own. But what I see, and these lines are not perfectly drawn in the real world. It's not like you perfectly finish this phase and then you go to the next. So that's a really fair question. What I typically see is if a team is working more in the concept phase, which is you don't necessarily have like a full prototype, you just have an idea, a sketch, a description, and you feel not so confident that you really understand the users that you're designing for or what's exactly is the problem. You can add in that user background section, you can add in some of those opportunity discovery questions. So tell me about the last time you whatever you're designing for, whatever behavior design you're designing for. And then you can start digging into the problems that they face in that space, as well as maybe get some feedback on the concept that you have. So you can, I think it's just being confident that you can say like, what is the problem that we're actually designing for? And I don't have a magic equation for that. But like I said, if you're in that concept phase, add those really open exploratory background questions to those interviews, and that will help gather more information.
Beauty. All right, next question actually says, wait, whoa, how can you apply the Kano model in surveys?
Ah,
Got a big reaction
um,
out of that one.
yeah, it is like it's a survey based off of, I think, a Japanese. I can't exactly remember who came up with it, but it's a survey. I can send you guys a link. I think Folding Burritos has like a whole step-by-step process for how to create the survey. And you can do it qualitatively in an interview, or you can do it quantitatively in a survey. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Okay, so this is translated. So thank you for bearing with us as
Actually,
I don't
sorry,
speak Spanish. Oh,
one last piece about that. The way you do it is you're testing concept descriptions or like a sketch or a screenshot. So you have a description or a screenshot of something, and then you ask questions in the survey. So that's just, yeah, a little
good
visual for
context.
how it works.
Cool. All right. So Mariana asks, in other places, I heard that it was good to include what the user told you. In this case, do you recommend only including what is important to that consideration? So I think this is in regards to like the recommendations part of it.
Yes. So when you're looking at the insights and deciding what's important, yeah, if I understand that correctly, and it's about taking action on insights, they're going from information that you get from the user to insight is about translating what's important to you and your team. So based on those research questions, you're taking what people told you and then you're putting your own meaning on top of what decisions need to be made based off of that information. So it's not always that, this user said that we need to fix blah feature. Is that in line with what you wanted to learn? Is that in line with a decision that you need to make? Is that in line with your company strategy? Like all of that can be layered on top of the things that you hear from your users and should be when you're making decisions.
So do you often pull in like the verbatim quotes and
Yes.
okay. Yeah.
Yep. So it's sort of like, here's the insight and here's a few quotes or video clips that back up that insight. And then here's what PMs and engineers and designers say is feasible. So this is what action we're going to take based on our business kind of
Nice.
case.
Yeah, I like those
Yeah.
kind of layers to it.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is from Eric. When teams struggle with fitting in research in short timelines, is there a risk of combining concept and usability testing in a single study? What would you recommend? Great question.
Yeah. I see this all the time. And like I said, the lines are not perfectly delineated, but my opinion as a researcher is concept and usability should become more separated. And do as much as you can to keep those two goals in two different research sessions. If you absolutely can't, then in the usability, like I said, with the concept test, if you need to understand the problem more, add those kinds of questions to the user background. So in a usability test, if you need more information about the value that the concept brings, add those questions in the user background. I know that doesn't give you like an exact way to do it, but yeah, I would suggest to separate them out. They're kind of different goals, and that will give you the best information. And there's ways to do really speedy usability testing. I mean, Maze is a great option. So you can set up quick concept testing, quick usability testing. I don't think they're going to take you super long if they can't.
Yeah, there's probably other ways to cut down the timeline rather
Yeah,
than risk the results in combining, two different objectives into one test.
exactly.
All right, got time for a couple more questions here. Actually, it asks, is it always that concept testing equates to a value or mental model test? Like, is that kind of the shorthand to knowing that you're testing for concepts?
I would say typically yes. That's the easy answer.
Yeah, nice. Beautiful. Nils asks, can you speak more to recruitment? What methods do you use to recruit for concept testing research?
Yep. And maybe this will actually get at Sienna's question of current versus non-customers. That is the major decision factor in how we recruit. So we use we use non-customers when we're trying to get a really fresh take, or maybe it's something about onboarding, or the focus is around people who haven't used the product before, obviously. So that's all reflected in your research objectives. Can you kind of tease out what type of person, what kind of experience this person needs with your product? And is that a customer or a non-customer? And that you could test non-customers with concept tests for sure. To actually recruit, we have an in-product tool called Sprig, which is a survey tool where you can ask people to sign up. You're able to, in Productboard, find people who have talked about a certain feature and then talk to them if that's the feature you're working on. For non-customers, we use things like respondent.io, user interviews, Maze, a lot of really great online research panel tools available.
Yeah, like you said, probably worthy of an entirely separate talk just to talk about,
Yes.
kind of like how to pool your participants for the right types of tests.
Yeah.
That was wonderful, super comprehensive. I really love the interactivity in the middle to kind of test your knowledge midway. Thank you so much for the
Yeah.
presentation, Rachel, and thank you all for attending. I'm actually going to drop in a link to a maze here. As some of you may know, when we complete any of our live streams, we always send a maze test. We would love your feedback. So if you have the opportunity, feel free to send us along your thoughts. And of course, you'll be able to catch us on the next live event here in the Maze community. So if you haven't taken a look at the Circle Community Hub, feel free to take a little tour. And thank you all again for spending some time with us today. We are super looking forward to catching you at the next event, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Feel free to reach out if you want to add me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email. I'm also happy to chat more. Yeah, would love to get any feedback on the talk. And if, yeah, just happy to hear from anyone.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks so much. Enjoy New York, Rachel.
Bye.
All
Thank
right.
you.